Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Vivienne. I am 33 this year. I just turned 33. I've been a Christian most of my life, and I'm also a freelance singer, writer, and illustrator. And I can add to that list that I'm also a cancer survivor. So, this is fake. This is my real hair, 4 months old, which I'm very happy about. I don't know how it looks right now because it's squashed, but okay, I hope it looks fine. So, in the last 11 months, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I underwent surgery, chemotherapy, and radiotherapy. And thankfully, thank God, that all came to a conclusion in April this year. So I am 4 months, not quite out of the woods, but out of the densest part of the woods. So that was April. So I'm here to share a little bit about my journey during this time. And while I know a lot of you may not have had exactly the same journey, I see someone who maybe is going through the same journey. I hope this will encourage you. I hope this will give you things to think about as well. Because sometimes life brings you to these sort of places. So I divide my life into BC and AD, which is called before cancer and after diagnosis. When you come to a turning point like this, you have a BC and an AD in your life, and the zero, the ground zero, is where things are discovered. Okay, BC, what happened BC? This was last year. It was an amazing place. I quit my corporate job. I was busy in music, art, and writing. I had a full calendar of things that I was planning to do for the rest of the year. As my mom had been a breast cancer survivor herself, I'd also been doing self-checking exams on a regular basis, so ladies, you all know what you're supposed to do in the shower. And then early last year, I started feeling a lump. What I thought was maybe a lump in the right side, but I thought, it's a bone, maybe it's a bone. And number two, I'm still really young. I'm just going to monitor it. So I monitored it until the day came, 14th August 2017. That was the day when I went for a routine health screening, which included a ultrasound for the breast. And then they told me, oh, come back in 2 weeks, we'll have the results ready for you. Okay, so I left the clinic, I went to lunch, I sat down to lunch, and then I got a call. And they said, we need you to come in now. And that's when I knew something was up. I actually, sort of felt like a door was opening in the corner of my eye. And nothing compares to that first moment, when that door slowly inches open that you never even saw. And I felt really numb. I was in shock, and I felt like things were a bit surreal. So we went into the clinic, and the doctor, she minced no words. She said, you need to get this checked immediately. And that's when I knew things were serious. The proverbial poop had hit the fan. Okay, so I was shocked because I felt things were going really well. And now I thought everything is going to be derailed. What about all these plans I had for the year? And what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my future, my health? How long do I have to live on this world? I was so scared of what I didn't know. And then right outside the doctor's office, as we stepped out after she told us, you need to get this checked, without knowing what was happening to me yet, could have been anything, but I started to cry. And my mom was with me, thank God for my mom. She took my hand, and she said firmly and gently, trust the Lord, we take this one step at a time. One step at a time, those are very difficult words sometimes, when you want to just run the whole mile and see what's happening. One step at a time can be the most difficult thing. Mentally, I knew that meant I should be at peace as we go through the process, but emotionally, it was so hard, as you can imagine. In just 2 weeks, we ran so many steps to try and find out what was wrong. And every morning was nothing but going to the doctor, getting tests, and then waking up feeling anxious the next day and going back in to find out the results. And as each piece unfolded, the picture kept getting more and more difficult to hear. So firstly, they told me it was a stage 2A. Then they told me that it was an aggressively growing tumor. It's what they call a stage 3 tumor in the breast. And it's more normal for cancers in young people to be more aggressive. Not only one tumor, but 2 tumors. And also, it was a rarer subtype overall. So the treatment would be different from a lot of what other people would go through. It would be a longer treatment. And then to boot, they discovered an ovarian tumor, which was unrelated to everything, but just kind of like the icing on the cake. Oh, by the way, you have a tumor in your ovary and it's 10 cm long. Oh, okay, we'll just add that to the pile of things. But thankfully, there was no spread to the rest of the body. It appeared to be localized, so thank God that was the one thing that I was grateful for. And I was hoping to just have the lumps removed. A lot of ladies, they just take out the lumps and you have your flesh and your skin that's intact. But the doctor told me that they would have to remove the whole thing. And that's when my heart sank. As a woman, all of us ladies here, we like our boobs. I can use the word boobs, right? We like our boobs, right? They give us a sense of identity, they give us a shape, they have a purpose, they define in some way our identity as a woman. And to lose that part of me was very difficult for me to hear. And thinking about the fact that it would never feel the same way again, there's no sensation on it, just knowing that everything would be different from here on, and that made me, one more thing that made me quite unhappy. And so we set a date for surgery in September, and things have been happening so fast up to that point that he didn't really have time to sit down and process too much, which in some way was a good thing. But as the surgery drew near, my feelings started to catch up with me. And some nights, I just couldn't sleep. And there was one night in particular, just 3 or 4 days from when I was going to go in, that I just felt so scared of the unknown. All these things that were going to happen to my body and change my body. And that was when, I would say that was one of the moments where, I really broke down. And, I was asking myself, why is this happening? What's happening to my body? What's going to happen to me? And then here's the very strange thing. I'm generally like a geeky person, so geeky into a lot of the fandoms and all that. Lord of the Rings has not been one of the fandoms I've been into, but I watched the movie maybe a handful of times in my life. And at all times, in the midst of my crying, the strangest thing popped into my mind, which was a quote from Lord of the Rings. And you have to understand how strange it was because it's not a movie I thought about for a long time, but suddenly this quote came to mind. So if you guys know, I assume all of you have watched Lord of the Rings, and the quote was this. So it was from the, oh goodness, her name is Kate Blanchett. Which one was she? Galadriel. Okay, Galadriel. Galadriel. So she gave Frodo, the little guy, the Hobbit. She gave him some glowing water, right? That was healing water that she gave him, and she said to him this. And for you, Frodo Baggins, I give you the light of Earendil, our most beloved star. May it be a light to you in dark places when other lights go out. I googled this to make sure I got it correct, so this is the exact quote. And somehow, that thought reassured me, the fact that you had a light in dark places when all lights go out, and I sort of fell asleep. And the strange thing was, when I woke up the next morning, a friend texted me. And she said to me, "Hi, how are you? In my mind, I saw you kneeling down and crying in the darkness, but Jesus is right there beside you, and he extends his hands to you. And he's waiting for you to look to him, to take his hand, and that's when the light will come into your life." I asked the Lord for a verse to comfort you this morning. This is the verse he gave me. And the verse she gave me was Habakkuk 3 verse 4. His brightness is like the sunlight. He has rays flashing from the hand, and there in the sun-like splendor is the hiding place of his power. And when I heard that, I was shook. So it could not be a coincidence. I do not believe in coincidence that my thoughts last night about the lights in the darkness and the brightness of the rays shining in the Lord's hand, that was clearly a sign to me that even in this dark place where there were so many things that were unknown, I could feel peace, that our Lord would light the way, and I could feel peace against the fear. So my mood did improve on the run-up to the surgery, and I started looking forward to becoming a new and healed person. Now for the surgery itself, it was a long one. It was 8 hours. And when they went in, they might still find things that were not right in there. They might find more tumors, they might find extra bits and pieces, and so I'm kind of making very light of it, but it was true. A lot of things could happen in that surgery. But I felt God's comfort and peace as I was wheeled into the operating theatre. And there was a verse that I held on to as they put me under. And it was this one. It was from Isaiah 41. and said, "Fear not, I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." And that was the last thing I remember before they knocked me out in the operating theatre. So when I was in, family and friends were praying for me around the clock every hour that I was in. And miraculously, surgery went very quickly. It actually was done in 5 hours, opposed to 8. Doctors were surprised at how quick and smooth it went, and the tumors were smaller than expected. So, there was good news all around. We were very thankful. But the not so good news followed when I went to do my follow-up checkup with the surgeon. And he told me that actually the cancer had spread beyond the breast and had gone into what's called the lymph nodes, which means the cancer is smart enough to know how to move around the body. So what that meant was that chemotherapy and radiotherapy would be needed to add it to the program. Now, chemotherapy, I know, sort of has a certain image in the media. You see people hanging onto the toilet bowl, or looking like they're in bed all day, or they got a tube up their nose, and they just look like they're pale and wasted the whole way through. I'm here to tell you that that is not entirely so. Okay, so what you see in the movies and TV is not quite really what chemotherapy is, at least for breast cancer of this stage. Okay, I had 2 portions to my chemo. Oh, I didn't realize we forgot the slides, so that was a before and after. There are 2 portions, okay, which I like to call the easy chemotherapy and the hard chemotherapy. So they use different drugs, they have different side effects, and of course the easy one means the side effects were less, and the hard chemotherapy means the side effects were more. And with the doctor's advice, I decided to begin with the easy chemotherapy as like the warm-up to the main event. So that was my choice. Now, easy chemo started at the end of September, and thank God it was really not as difficult as I braced myself for. I went in for once a week, sometimes up to 5 hours a session, so that was me during chemotherapy, and I wore those gloves to try and stop some of the numbness from getting into my fingers. I did lose my hair, as you can see, because that's kind of on par with the course. I did get some tiredness and so on, some numbness, but I was generally well enough to continue my performing. And I even sang for you guys at the event in December. I would go there in my wig and my makeup, and no one would know my secret, so it felt kind of cool, like I had a secret identity going on. So that was me during the early part of my treatment with the wig, and we were performing at National Library. And that felt great, that in these 3 months, here I was, surprising people by going about my life when they expected I was going to be sick, or in bed, and friends told me I looked great, I was strong, I was positive, I was a cancer warrior. So, I thank God that He gave me the energy and the good health, but I have to say it also got to my head. When people tell you all these things and you're doing all these things, you feel that maybe you're invincible. Maybe you feel, yeah, I'm just going to breeze through this. No problem at all. The easy was alright. Bring on the main event. And then the difficult chemo started. The main event started. And everything changed. Nothing I had read or heard had prepared me in any way for the experience. So, we can show the next slide. Is that red stuff? They call that the red devil. That's the chemical that gives you a whole lot of interesting things during your treatment. So what I felt so much was the fatigue. So in the week after my chemo, I would feel an exhaustion that I never felt. It was in the bones. You felt so heavy, and it wasn't just the body, it was the mind. The mind just couldn't move. People are like, oh, if you're tired, why not you go and lie down, watch Netflix? And I was like, I couldn't even concentrate on a Netflix show. My mind couldn't focus. My eyes also were wandering everywhere. So all I could do was just lie on the couch feeling like lead and just stare at the ceiling. I did this for days after my treatment. So I lost the desire to eat due to nausea and changes in my taste buds. Familiar foods all tasted weird. I love my spicy food. I couldn't eat my spicy food because it was just so spicy in my mouth. I was thirsty and dry, but water tasted like metal. I didn't even want to drink water because it tasted bitter in my mouth. I slept badly, and my appearance altered further. I was getting fatter and bloated from steroids and inactivity. Being bald, you still look like a normal person, but once you take away the hair on your eyebrows and your lashes, you look very strange. And that's what happened to me. I lost the hair. All that hair was gone. And I couldn't do the things I loved. I couldn't sing because of the dryness and the weakness. I couldn't draw. I couldn't write. I just couldn't do anything. I felt useless. I'd stand in the mirror and I'd stare at this bald, fat, alien thing. That's what I saw myself as. And this thing could only lie on the couch, go to the toilet, eat a bit, and go back and lie down. And that kind of thing doesn't make you feel like you're a human being. I did not feel like a human being. And I told myself, it's okay. It's only a bit longer, just a few more weeks. The worst of this will be over. That's what I thought. And then things took a turn I didn't expect. I had a fever, and if you know people who are going through chemotherapy, once you have a fever, treatment gets delayed. I had to go to hospital to be treated for the fever. And that pushed back my chemo by another 2 weeks. It was only 2 weeks, but that really felt like, the last straw. The light at the end of this tunnel felt so far away now, and I was so sick by then of being sick. Prior to this, I might have questioned why it happened, but I never blamed God for it. But this time, I was so sorely tested. When I checked out of the hospital, and the weekend of my discharge, I felt so very low. I never felt low like that. I was so angry and so frustrated at God and so frustrated at myself. And I just told him, how long more, God? How long more? So what if I get through treatment now? I can still fall sick again in future. Recurrence of cancer happens in so many women. I'm pretty sure I'm going to fall sick again. I wasn't good enough to you. I wasn't a good enough child. I wasn't obedient enough. I didn't follow you closely enough. This is my punishment. I thought all those things. And I felt so alone. I said, where are you? Because nobody understands. Nobody knows this exhaustion, this fatigue, this lack of desire to live, to feel human. Where are you? That's what I thought. And then sometimes, I thank God for technology because that's how He has spoken to me. He has sent friends who have used technology to help me see where I need to go. So a very dear friend of mine sent me a song around that weekend. And she said it was called Song for the Weary. And she sent it to me because she felt that it would speak to me in my situation. Now you have to understand, I know she meant well. I was in a mood to be dismissive. I thought, yeah, everyone has sent me these things. I feel it relates to you. I feel like, this song understands you. I was like, no, nothing understands what I'm going through now. How could they know? But nevertheless, a dear friend sent it. I knew I should listen to it. So I opened it up as a courtesy. So this song, as I listened to the words, I really felt those walls coming down because there was one line in there. The minute that line came was a jolt because I knew this song was meant for me. The line went, sick and healthy, young and old, come and find your refuge here. You who cry, how long, O Lord? Soon He'll wipe away your tears. And that's when I knew I was the one who was crying out, how long? And in His mercy and grace, even though I railed against Him, He had found a way to reach me with this song. And this is the song I want to share for you, based on Isaiah 53. A man of sorrows, acquainted with grief, like one from whom men hide their faces, He was despised, and we esteemed Him not. He took our infirmities and carried our sorrows, and He was pierced for our transgressions. The punishment that brought us peace upon Him, and by His stripes we are healed. So I was reminded that we are not alone. I was not alone. The man of sorrows, our Jesus Christ, knew exactly what I'd been going through because He had lived a human life of pain. He'd suffered and died on the cross. And incidentally, at my age when He went through all of that, He was 33. And He had chosen to die on the cross because He loved me. And He wanted me to have an eternal relationship with Him through the good times in my life and the very bad. So I felt so humbled and admonished and loved as I heard this. And I went on my knees to pour out my despair and ask for forgiveness. I felt assured that He would hold my hand and He would lead me and comfort me regardless of whether I got well and stayed well or got well and fell sick again. And He would comfort me and show me the path that was best. and this is called Song for the Weary.
Oh, you thirsty, come and drink. Drink water without price. All who hunger, sit and eat. Come join the feast of Christ. Orphans, widows, mourners, come. Find welcome in His fold. Outcast wanderers, come in. For you He's made a home. The man of sorrows bids you come. He knows your weary frame. The wounded lamb who bears the scars calls you by your name. Sick or healthy, young and old, come find your refuge here. You who cry, how long, oh Lord? Soon He'll wipe away your tears. The man of sorrows bids you come. He knows your weary frame. The wounded lamb who bears the scars calls you by your name. Oh, anxious hearts and downcast souls, we grieve with you. Oh, suffering saints and stumbling friends, we sing for you. Oh, anxious hearts and downcast souls, Christ weeps with you. Oh, suffering saints and stumbling friends, His love stands true. The man of sorrows bids you come. He knows your weary frame. The wounded lamb who bears the scars calls you by your name.
So, time flew surprisingly quickly from there. My spirits were better.
In a blink of an eye, I finished chemotherapy in February, right after Chinese New Year, and I finished radiotherapy in April. This story has not ended yet. It is not a miracle healing or a happy ever after, but it is a journey that bears the signature and handprint of God's goodness to me every step of the way. He worked through doctors and medicine to heal my body physically, and spiritually, the Lord Himself healed me at my lowest, and He continues to do so. I'm in my early days of recovery, still dealing with some tiredness and some side effects of longer-term oral medications, but generally feeling much better. And recovery brings its share of uncertainty about the future. You find a new normal after treatment is done. Nobody tells you that you've got to find a new normal. What do you do with the time that you have? I live on the blessing of extended time, and the pressure of borrowed life. What do you do with this? This is a work in progress where I seek direction, and I have assurance that God's plans for me are good. By good, I don't mean that I will be the most successful, the richest, or the healthiest, but I know that whatever plan God has for me, it will bring deep joy and purpose. I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And the future is I can celebrate beyond this life because my future is secure. He promises that there's a place for me in eternity, and it gives me assurance to weather the storms of life. And now it takes new meaning when I wake up, and I look forward to the day where I can put aside this body, which is aching, and weak, and fragile. It's been cut apart and sewn back together. There are parts of me that used to be here, and now they're there, and so on. And I can't wait for that day when I have a new body in heaven. And more importantly, I look forward to meeting the one who has kept me steady, who has been my guide and my leader and my great comfort, and who has looked after me all the days of my life. I look forward to being with him forever. Revelation says that he will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for these have passed away. And the one seated on the throne said, "Behold, I make all things new." And I look forward to being new. Now to close, we're going to sing one more song for you. And I think a lot of you will know this, so if you do, sing along. This is Because He Lives. God sent His Son, they called Him Jesus. He came to love, heal and forgive. He lived and died to buy my pardon. An empty grave is there to prove my Savior lives. Because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because He lives, no fear is gone. Because I know He holds a future, and life is worth the living just because He lives. How sweet to hold a newborn baby and feel the pride and joy He gives, but greater still, that calm assurance this child can face uncertain days because He lives. Because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because He lives, no fear is gone. Because I know He holds the future, and life is worth the living just because He lives. Because He lives. And then one day I'll cross life's river, I'll fight life's fight, no war with pain. And then as death gives way to victory, I'll see the lights of glory, and I know He lives. Because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because He lives.
little bit over, but not to David. Thank you very much for listening.